Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Have you ever heard the phrase, nurses eat their young? Feeding Our Young is more than a podcast. It's a movement. It's a desire to see nurses of all ages. It's supported and also on their field. And it starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with thank God. Let me get Hooray! 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 Oh! Welcome to the Feeding Our Young podcast. Who's speaking of? Help me! Help me! Somebody help me!
Pipe
Jen,
down.
should we take him out?
Yeah, no, we're not ready for him yet.
Okay, keep duct tape on a little longer.
Yeah, keep the duct tape on. He's real chatty. He needs a little timeout.
Oh shoot! Hey, they're here. Hey, my name's Izzie.
I'm Jen.
Okay, and we have hijacked Eric Miller's podcast called Feeding Our Young.
But I suppose we should probably actually let him in.
We had this brilliant idea of interviewing him. Meanwhile, we took him hostage and took over all the technology. So we'll let him out of the bag, and we'll start with some questions. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let the cat out.
All right,
Be cooperative, Eric.
Thank you. It's hard to breathe in there. Oh, this is so much fun. We had this idea separately together. If you've heard Izzie's episode, Jennifer's episode, or Jen's episode, or Niffer's episodes, I don't know how many people are here today. It's just all of us. All right. Well, we've gathered some questions. A few of us have gathered some questions from students. Students, thank you for providing those questions. This was a dream of mine a long time ago. To have a nice Q&A episode. So I've got a list. Izzie's got some. Jennifer brought herself. And so...
I came unprepared.
Slacker.
So let's not waste any more time. We'll jump right in. One of the very first questions I got was, and they prefaced this as saying, as someone who wants to work OB one day, what advice would you give to nurses just starting out in OB and NICU nursing?
My advice for someone new in OB would be to ask questions, always. And it's my personal pet peeve of mine when people think they know. Things in OB can change really fast and get really serious really quickly. And so I want to know that I have somebody who is going to speak up and say, hey, I'm not sure this is going on, what should I do, versus just thinking they can handle it on their own. Because the reality is you're really not proficient for at least a year, and that's probably dependent on experiences.
I think that, for a nursing student, when you're on an OB floor, watch, observe, soak it in, all that stuff. Like Jen said, ask questions. I think in OB, and I'm sure it's like this on other areas of medicine, but you want to be an OB, you have to have the ability to be coachable throughout your entire career, because OB changes, like our practice changes, the guidelines change, this, that, and the other thing changes. We no longer put oxygen on all moms having D cells. Our area of medicine is ever evolving, and we can't get too stuck in our ways. Even though we do have our lovely sacred cows, as Jen refers to, we still have to be adaptable. So, yeah, and moldable, even in my old age.
Advanced, wiser age, old age.
I like that.
I let you guys answer that one more because being the baby of the group, figuratively and maybe literally, as far as OB and NICU nursing is concerned. I mean, the only thing I would add is, as you advance in your careers, never, ever, ever forget the one thing I always tell my students, which is you're part of somebody's miracle. You'll get caught up in, all the technicalities, and especially early on, you're worried about getting everything right and making sure, all that, but don't forget, you're part of somebody's miracle, and don't get jaded to that. That would be my only 2 cents to add to that. So,
Okay.
Awesome. Another question comes to us. How do you ensure effective communication with parents in the NICU? Okay, so apparently we've got an OB NICU theme going on here. That started out early, but don't worry, everybody. We're not just talking OB and NICU. But how do you ensure effective communication with parents in the NICU, especially when delivering tough news?
One thing that I have learned is that it's best to just truly just sit with your patients. I will pull up a chair. You don't think about it maybe in nursing, but the parents in the NICU are not the patient, right? It's the baby, but they're at the bedside. They're usually sitting. But if I'm towering over a patient, and even just speaking with them, but this is a highly emotional situation if there's a kiddo in the NICU for whatever reason, sitting down. And instead of just starting with, hey, blah, 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 here's all the things that your baby is struggling with, meet them where they're at. I like to get to know them a very surface level, but what baby is this for you? Is this your first baby? Okay, well, let me walk you through what you're seeing with your baby, right? These are the leads, these are the monitors, these are the wires, this is all of this stuff, and everything in the NICU beeps. Don't panic. If I'm panicking, then you can panic, but everything in the NICU beeps, and usually it's just not reading how we want it to. And just acknowledging that this is really hard and that there's no stupid questions. Ask whatever you've got. And I don't expect you to remember everything that I say the first time I say it, because you probably won't. And it's taken time for me to recognize that. Because I would have these thoughts. I'm just going to own it. Like, seriously, like 5 nurses have talked to these parents and they're like, I know nobody's told me that. Nobody's told me that. I'm like, well, I was here yesterday when somebody did tell them that. But really recognizing that they're not at their best, mental capacity. This is a really stressful time for them. And so I've embraced that. Like I said, it took a little time for me to really, really lean into that. But sometimes you do have to say it multiple times in multiple different ways, and that's okay. That doesn't mean they weren't listening. That doesn't mean they're not attentive. They're just managing a lot. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's my answer.
I think I can answer that more so in the capacity of like a laboring mom. I don't really spend much time in the NICU. It's not really my jam. And so what I find with, delivering unfortunate news to parents, birthing people is I don't sugarcoat things anymore. I don't soften it, but I speak slower, calmer, lower tone. Like Jen said, I don't ever stand above them looking down at them. I want to be eye level or lower. I think that's in part to not try and intimidate them with news, but just being very truthful, um, even with not so great news, and just slow and kind of see from them in their eyes, like, are they understanding these terms? Do I need to change my language a little bit? Things like that. And just, I think back in my earlier years of nursing, I tried to sugarcoat things and just try to make everything seem okay. And really, the news we're delivering doesn't always mean things are okay. And so I was always trying to find the sunnier side of things. And now I'm like, yeah, the truth is better. Now, having been a NICU mom, um, and poor Jen had to deal with my texts and phone calls getting through that. But like Jen said, it's so appreciated when, as a parent, the nurse will sit with you and explain what you're seeing. So, and kind of take baby steps with you. Baby language, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't, I've talked about this in relation to grief in particular, having the death of our first child and all the things. One of the big things I try and teach and hammer home is that, don't use replacement words. We try, like, kind of on that subject of softening things, right? Like, grandpa kicked the bucket, I mean, that's actually not even that soft, but, you know what I mean? Bought the farm, kicked the bucket. But the words that are used often, right? Past. We've lost someone, we didn't lose them. I'm not out looking for my keys. I didn't, you know what I mean? I don't remember where I misplaced them. The loved one has died, and using words like died and death, in particular, I guess answering the last part of that question is kind of, that'd be my 2 cents to add there, because, Yeah, don't soften it. Just call it what it is in a loving, respectful way. Excellent bedside manner. But I love that both of you bring up just that, the positioning, because you forget that too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times if I'm doing discharge education on a totally different matter, I will sit down I don't like using the stools we have at our bedsides, but I will sit down and use them in those moments because I want to be eye to eye. I want to be, you know what I mean? This is not authority on high from above you. This is me talking to you. We're on the same level. What questions do you have, et cetera, et cetera. So awesome. So moving on to the third question so far. How do you manage, I guess that piggybacks well off that last question. How do you manage the emotional toll of difficult patient cases?
So this is something I've actually talked about recently with a few students. I had a student who witnessed in our OB clinical a newborn resuscitation. We had talked about it beforehand, like a couple of weeks beforehand, what to expect, what they're doing, that kind of thing. But it really rocked her. And she came to me later. I offered a debrief that day. She was like, no, I'm good. I was like, I think we should debrief and really replay it all. And she was like, nope, the nurse went through it with me. I feel good. She came back to me the next Monday. Mm-hmm. Can we debrief? And I was like, of course, yes, come in here.
Yeah.
But it's not always offered, but ask for the debrief. Ask for, that opportunity I'm a verbal processor, so that helps me. Debriefing should be normal. And even
yes.
this was a great outcome. The resuscitation worked beautifully and the baby responded so well, and it was a great resuscitation, everything you would hope for. But it just the delivery didn't start that way. And so absolutely debrief. And the other thing for me is my community in a less formal setting is just having friends. We're blessed that we work on this unit where we're really our family. But having somebody that I can go to that may not have been part of that situation, but they've had their own situations, and just having empathy for one another. I'm so sorry. I've had a situation like this. It was really, really hard for me. I think is helpful. And for the really, really tough ones, I have when I've lost babies, I have to journal my feelings. And I have one instance that I am thinking of that I think I stayed up till 2 or 3 a.m. writing and rewriting and editing and just facing it. I think today nobody wants to face the hard. That's a generalization, obviously, but there's fear of what is hard and there's fear of what hurts. But when you go through it and you face it, I think you can start to heal from it and incorporate it into who you become after it.
Yeah.
I think Jen said it really well, and part of it I think is unique to our unit. We do have a huge sense of community on our floor. So if I have, a sad outcome or just a rough day, I can, take space from the unit. Sometimes we go out to breakfast after work or get coffee or just phone a friend and debrief with them. And, we are on a unit where, sometimes we hand off our hard cases to a coworker, a friend to take care of them. And so we can all kind of relate and come together. And our unit's great with brainstorming, hey, my patients are struggling and I'm struggling taking care of them. What should I do? And we have really wonderful advice and a strong sense of community to back ourselves. Also, when I get home, I hug my kids. If I've had a hard day, that makes me really grateful for what I have. Get home, hug my kids, snuggle them up. And we've all had, sad sufferings in our lives. And it's a wonderful reminder to be appreciative for what we have each day, because we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. So it personally reminds me to live in the moment with my family and our household.
Yes.
Yeah, those, I can't say anymore that I go home and drink a glass of wine. That doesn't really happen anymore after a hard day's work, but just celebrate what we have and give our patients what we can.
And I guess I'll blend both your answers, even though they don't need blending. My motto always was cry with those who cry, celebrate with those who celebrate, and let all the feelings out. And I figured as long as I could do those things, I could work in pediatric oncology indefinitely. Turns out there was still a limit, but the point is, I think that motto right there prolonged my career. I tell my students, feel the feels, let it out in a safe space, safe way, safe place. And then, like you said, turn to someone you trust. Talk to them, whether it's your instructor, start with your instructor if it's someone you trust, and then go from there. Your parents, your friends, your best friends. This same thing, last rotation, we had 2 students who dealt with some pretty difficult shifts. And it was kind of funny, Jen, because you said, like one of mine was the same thing. She was like, no, I'm good. I checked before we even made the assignment, and then after the end of the shift and all the things. No, I'm good. And then I get a text 5:30 that night. You know what? No, I get home, and for whatever reason, here it is. I'm like, it wasn't a matter of if. I knew it was just going to be a matter of when. So that's how to do it there.
I appreciate when you say like let it out and just cry with them, let it out. And I think that it was like 8 years into my labor and delivery career, I finally did a training for demise families, and the instructor advised like, hey, if you feel emotional, cry with the family. And I had never heard that before, and then had more experiences, and then started like I would stay in the room. I wouldn't leave the room to go have my own tearful moment, but would be with the family. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a little bit easier for some reason.
Yeah.
To be with them in their grief. So I appreciate you saying that, Mr. Eric.
And we wouldn't ever, of course, you don't ever make it about the nurse. That's not what it is. If you are, ugly face sobbing and everybody's looking at you, maybe we're going, don't let that much out. Let a little bit out, and then let that part out after you get home. I don't know. All right.
I was training a nurse years ago. She's a nurse practitioner now. It was a long time ago. And we had our first demise patient, and it really affected her quite emotionally. And we excused ourselves, and I told her, I said, okay, so this is that ugly cry. You go do that over here. I can come with you or whatever, but in the room, you don't get to cry harder than the patient.
Yeah.
This is a horrible situation. This is devastating. This is, so sad, but it's not your loss.
Yeah.
And so you have to make sure you're like exactly what you said, Eric. You're not making it about you in those moments.
Yeah. Next question. And Izzie's going to lead this one off very easily, and she'll explain why. Do you have tips for working night shift?
Wait. Schedule a podcast immediately after? Is that the answer?
You flippin' daywalkers. I can't stand either of you. You went to the light side, and shame on both of you. Just for all you wonderful listeners out there, night shift rocks. You get paid more, you have more fun, and there's no management around, and it's fantastic. So, night shift. Actually, that's funny. I just lectured on this with my students last week. So I just did a presentation on this,
Nice.
and how our bodies are fighting our circadian rhythms. But wait, I got a 3-year-old.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey guys, go away. Please edit that out.
Is that all that works? And how do you parent your children? Oh, there it is. We got it. Parenting tip 101.
She said it nicely.
Yeah, she totally did.
Hold on.
Okay.
This will be entertaining. Hold on. Dude, what's up? Okay, you can say hi to my friends really fast.
Hello.
Okay, I gotta go back to work for a minute. Nope, say hi to my friends. Okay, I gotta go. Give me a kiss. 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 You want to say hi? Okay, wave hi. Now wave bye-bye. Okay, I'll come out when I'm done, and I'll come play, okay? Okay, bye-bye. Love you. Sorry, it would just on. Still think you guys should be ashamed of yourselves for working day shift. Quitters.
No, ma'am, I did my time.
Quitters.
I love it because we have the spectrum here. Like Jen is, as soon as you could get out, you got out, right? Izzie is like, I'm still doing nights. And for me, I thought I'd be a lifelong night shifter, and then ended up, because I wanted to teach Izzie, ended up having to go to days, whatever.
Okay, just for the record, I've gone to day shift like 3 or 4 times, and I keep going back to night shift. So,
see?
You guys, nights are designed for some
We have another friend
people.
who does that too.
Who's that?
Beth.
Beth.
She
Beth.
abandoned me. I still love her.
Beth, you've been name dropped as not pick a lane, Beth. Pick a lane.
She's kind of fantastic.
It's all
Kind of
right.
fantastic.
So sorry, Izzy, was there anything else you wanted to say on that before either of us chimed in?
Oh, just you've got to really evaluate your life. You've got to, invest in. I'm gonna do like my top 10 tips for night shift living. Invest in excellent blackout curtains. Make where you sleep, if it's your bedroom, your couch, make it like an oasis. Sound machines are great. Weighted blankets, heated blankets. Have a home environment, whether it's roommates, partners, or if you live alone. Have everybody be on the same page for quiet hours in the house. No parties when you need to snooze. Honestly, having pets or a puppy you need to walk is kind of rough when you're working nights. So I see a lot of our night shift nurses, new grads who get out of school and they immediately get a puppy. And I'm like, oh, Lord, you're not going to get a full day's sleep, girl.
Nope.
But yeah, lots of water. I don't recommend sleep aids. I will be honest with that. I recommend making better life choices to help you sleep. So avoid the sleep aids if you can.
Love it.
Yeah,
I always said no, don't drink after 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because what would kill me was getting up to pee.
Yeah.
And then I was like, done for.
Yep.
I mean, I might fall back asleep, but it would not be good quality sleep.
Empty your bladder before you lay down to go to bed. Try and get 7 to 9 hours of sleep if you can.
That's a myth.
Try to get 4.5 or 5 hours if you can.
Oh, man.
Yeah, 5
Sound
I felt
machines,
like I
baby.
was crushing it.
Brown noise, baby. Oh, and also,
I do love the brown noise.
right? It is
Yes.
helpful.
Yes.
But I'm gonna plug this and then we'll be done. Doing the 4-7-8 breathing technique.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. So unpack that really quick. In the interest of time, I'm now quickly realizing the error of this idea that we could get the three of us educators on here and blow through 20 questions. So if you gave us a question and we don't answer it, my apologies, because we have a very hard timeline we're running up against. So
we're terrible.
We'll try and speed up our answers, but
Okay.
this is very practical. Very practical. What is it, Izzy?
Google it, you guys. There's wonderful YouTube videos on it. It's a method of breathing that helps calm you, relax you, decrease anxiety. Often for people, if they repeat this, they go to sleep faster. There's studies on it. So what you do is you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale out of your mouth for 8 seconds. And then you just repeat this. And I've got my nursing students actively doing this right now since lecture. But my nurse practitioner who advises for me to help decrease anxiety and help improve better sleep, she does this every night. And by her 3rd cycle, she is out. She is knocked out of sleep. So it can really help with stress, anxiety, and improved sleep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Izzy, you said you have a question or two there.
Oh, yes. Mr. Eric, number 1. Okay, I'm going to have 2, so reserve me 2 questions. This beautiful brainchild of this podcast, how did this bloom?
That's right. You did ask that in your episode. And we said we'd save it for this one, and now I'm feeling pressure. Okay. So the as far as this goes, I had a good gentleman that I made an acquaintance with. I got to be the convocation speaker for the master's degree. I was the master's degree representative, convocation speaker, once I got my master's degree through WGU during our celebration in Washington, D.C. It's Googleable. It's on YouTube. It's 10 minutes long, and I don't advise doing it. But anyway, point is, by doing that, I met a gentleman who was just absolutely amazing, Mr. Jeff Burton. And he's a producer. He does all these things. And he genuinely believes everyone should have a podcast. He said, anyway, so I get this text from him 6 months later. He's like, hey, you want to be a guest on the WGU Alumni Podcast? I said, absolutely. What does that mean? I've never listened to a podcast, never done a podcast. What do you need me to do? And it was just this. He just interviewed me. It's audio only, very low key, all the things. When we were done, he goes, I genuinely believe everyone should have one. He goes, but Eric, your outgoing personality, blah, 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 blah. You should do one. Oh, thanks, Jeff. That's great. Thank you. And I'm like, who wants to listen to some podunk from Spokane, like male postpartum? What am I going to do? Like, what? Today's episode, how I brushed my teeth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, so I put a pin in it. It's like, thank you. I appreciate that. And it wasn't until our students, it was spring semester or, spring semester last year. And as part of my outgoing interview process with them, I of course do their evaluation, but then I also ask, how can I improve, and all the things. All of them, many of them came back and said, thank you, and not me, but everyone, for providing a safe space to practice and to not feel judged. And after multiple of them, and they're just an incredible group of students, every last one of them are, but this group in particular, just for whatever reason, that's where the spark hit. And I was like, wait, that's the podcast idea right there. Interviewing other nursing students, other educators, other nurses, with the main goal of having nursing students walk away going, yeah, I can do this. So that's how this all started. And I threw out texts to my initial, all the groups of students I had before, which wasn't many, but, got 20 people to say yes. And I was like, okay, there it is. It might be a 20 episode podcast and that'll be it, but we got 20 students willing to do this. And it's just grown since then. So for all you initial yesers, thank you so much for making this happen.
Aww.
So there we are. As quick as I could. Pound that out. Ready to go.
Okay. Next question. Your merch. I love your merch. Where'd you get the sweater?
Saw that. I like it.
So it actually is it's a nice polyester shirt. No, so that's the next. So for those audio only, obviously, what you're not seeing is I'm wearing one of I have two Feeding Our Young shirts, one of which I just made through Custom Ink or Redbubble or somebody, or no, Custom Ink, and then this one was actually through a company called The Jersey Guy. And he sent me a free sample. He's like, hey, if you like it, let's connect, and da-da-da. So I love it. Like, on the back of it, there's like, you can customize it with, because the idea is they're like polyester softball jersey type things. So you can customize it with your own name and number. So anyway, that's one of the many ideas I have for merchandise that I have yet to implement because I'm too busy doing the darn thing. And so that's one of my goals this summer, is to establish a merchandise line so that all 10 people who are interested can pick up something of their own. Okay, so awesome. That was very weird. Those were questions just for me. We'll go back around and get to the questions that people care about. Just kidding. I mean, maybe you cared about that one. What pushes you to keep going when you've been having a tough day at work, either with a tough caseload or difficult patients? What pushes you to keep going? For me, it's the fact that another motto I have, and you'll find you have these little mottos that you're just going to preach to yourself, whether you believe it in the moment. And for me, it's like, my motto is, you can do anything for 12 hours. And for me, I work 12-hour shifts, so would it fill in with however many hours you have? But for me, it's, you can do anything for 12 hours. And I've had a couple shifts that have pushed that to the limit. With those shifts where you're like, man, if someone came and replaced me right now at hour 11, I would go. You know what I mean? I can't do 60 more minutes of this. But that's what, that's not emotional. That's not a nice, deep, spiritual, emotional answer for you. But that has at times saved my rear.
I don't know. I'm like going through the shifts in my mind that have been difficult. And
you remember them, don't you?
Oh,
yeah.
Absolutely.
You'll never forget them, you guys. You'll never forget them.
But I think that I'm stubborn as all get out. And so, like, I think without actually acknowledging it to myself, I have this idea that, like, nobody's going to tell me that I can't, that I can't keep going, right? You can't, and I've been fired by patients. It's kind of comical looking back for various reasons. But like, I had a sweet gal who was trying to get her epidural, and she kept swearing at me as I was attempting to get her blood pressure. And I was like, so I need a baseline blood pressure before you get your epidural. And she was like, GTFO. And my charge nurse laughed that I got fired. And I was like, no, she goes, oh, you're like a real nurse now. And I was like, wait, what?
She's like, welcome.
Wait, what? And she goes, it just happens. And so she went back in and talked to the patient, and the patient was like, I'm so sorry. I just, emotions got the better of her, and she rehired me, and she got an epidural, and it was great. I don't know. I think that I preach this to my students, that every patient, regardless of why they're in the hospital, could be to have a baby and everything's going fantastically. It could be that they're having surgery. Maybe it's a cancer diagnosis. They're vulnerable. And I think that is what really is is the root of me like having that not give up mentality is they're they're at their most vulnerable. And so who am I to have this attitude about how, their attitude isn't great or they were mean to
Yeah.
me? And I also, it's taken time. Like Izzy was saying, I used to, kind of nicely lie to my patients and be like, you're doing such a great job pushing. You're almost there. And we've got 3 hours to go. Um, I've grown out of that, but also, I've learned over time to stand up for myself and to have those just direct conversations with the patient and say, I'm offering A, I'm offering B, I'm offering C, and you're not wanting any of these things. Can you tell me exactly what it is that you want me to do for you? Because I'm not coming at it from the right angle, and I want to help you with whatever your situation is. And it's that sit down moment, right?
Yeah.
Where, okay, hold on, I'm going to sit down. What exactly are you hoping for today?
Yeah.
Help me understand what your goals are, what your fears are, what you're frustrated about, so that we can hopefully work through it together. And most of the time, I would say 99% of the time that works. And the other probably 1% of the time, sometimes you have to tap out. Maybe you have a patient, unfortunately, it's more and more common that's maybe going through active withdrawal.
Yeah.
And those patients, in my opinion, are very under-medicated for what they're going through, and it is incredibly hard on them, for them, on the nurses, for the nurses. And so sometimes you do just have to tap out and be like, you know what? I'm no longer my best self in this room. Hey, Izzy, can we swap assignments? Because I'm empty. I got nothing left. And I think that's okay.
I jokingly use the phrase like I could be anyone's best friend for 12 hours. I'm like I have the best maid of honor you could ever have. But this is selfish. I often don't want a patient back again. Like I gave them my best 12 hours and I'm like I feel like if I get them back again, I'm just gonna fail them. Like I'm not gonna be the same funny nurse. They already heard all my jokes. I am no good to them.
I've done my stand-up routine.
Yeah.
We're done. I don't have anything else.
Like I'm not funny after 12 hours. So yeah, I can do it for 12 hours. I can be their best friend. I can wipe their butts. I can wipe their babies' butts. I can do all the things. But I intentionally don't like to have patients back the next day, and I don't know why. But yeah.
Oh,
Interesting.
that's so funny because I'm the opposite.
You want them back?
Even if they're a quote unquote difficult patient, I have one patient in mind. She fired every single nurse on the floor.
Ow.
Yeah, and went to fire me, and I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you can't because there's nobody left that you haven't fired." And that's just the reality of it. Like we're gonna cycle through the same dirty laundry here. But I was like, I work the next 2 shifts, and I want her again. Like we've gotten into it now. We've established like our relationship, and it was a very rough 3 shifts in a row. But we made it, we knew where we stood with each other, and there was some psychiatric components with this patient. But it was in a weird way, it was good.
I feel
Yeah.
like when you take that on as a floor nurse, you're like, okay, I'll take the difficult, like, because sometimes you understand, like, there's a difficult patient in this room or that room, and you take that on for your team. I feel like you earn like an invisible honor badge for the week or something. Like you
I don't
do.
remember getting
Yep.
that, but yeah.
No, you don't
Yeah.
get it.
No,
But, like,
it's invisible.
Yeah.
be like, oh, remember that, that tough patient we had? Yeah, and Jen had her for like all week, and Jen was like cool with it. Like you remember that as a coworker, so that it's like, all right, who do we volunteer as tribute next time? Who's got it in them today? So yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. You got to be careful being, good with the difficult patients. Only because then you get a rep. You always get a reputation one way or the other. So if you end up being good with the difficult patients, guess what your assignment's going to look like a lot. So I guess the piggyback on that is make sure that you are speaking up for yourself too and saying, hey,
Yes.
I know that, that worked out well last time, but I can't keep doing that over and over again. Like, maybe next time, can I have the next, I don't know, whatever.
Somebody else's turn for personal growth at work.
Yeah.
Woo! I like it.
All right, let's answer one more question for this episode, and then we're gonna double back real quick, make a second episode. There's a lot of there's just so many good questions. I'm not gonna name names, but somebody has a hair appointment that they booked after this, and somebody else might have been sleepy because they worked last night. But it's okay. We got together. The miracle happened. And here we are.
The non-blonde does not have a hair appointment. Just throwing that out there.
So that leaves one of two. And I don't know. My hair is impeccably coiffed. So
It's me.
All right. Okay. I love it. We'll trash on her. In fact, we'll have a third episode after Jen leaves, and Izzie and I'll just rag on her. It'll be story time. It'll be sleepy story time with Izzie, and she's going to tell us stories all about Jen. Okay,
I
kidding.
will run through all my labor and delivery jokes with you. Everyone I got.
I love it.
Okay, I love this one here. Are you ready? Am I ready? That's the real question. Where was it? There you go. Was there ever a time in your career that made you question if you still wanted to continue nursing?
No. But teaching, yes.
And for me, no. And it's not. This is an interesting question to ask the three of us. And I'm not saying that, like, oh no, I knew. Once I was in, that's it. But even my son, our first son who died, the nurse that took care of him. We'll open that. The nurse that took care of him was in the peds ICU, and when we first got there, our son was expected to make a full recovery. I've gone through this story. I'm not going to go through it now. You can go back and listen to a different episode. But long story short, he was supposed to recover and did not. Never regained consciousness. But the day he was supposed to do a great recovery was the day he got worse. But this nurse who took care of him on the first night left for vacation the next day, and when he came back, that was the final straw for them. And rumor had it that they stopped being a nurse altogether, didn't get out of the PICU, stopped being a nurse altogether, and went into botany or something, this sounds stupid, out of it, like an emotional story, but it was went to take care of plants or had a family florist. I'm not doing it justice, but the point is, yes, it happens to the best of us for sure. But for me personally, no, not once.
Not for me leaving nursing, but after my first year of being a clinical instructor, that one was a tough year. Got a tough cohort of students, and just was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to teach this generation." Give it a few years, let the pandemic go on, and I'm back teaching and stayed at the bedside. So
your passions will never, you can't escape your passions. Maybe you'll have that moment that totally breaks you, and you finally are done, but you can't otherwise. Yeah, take a break, go do something else, go whatever, but you'll be back. Okay, we'll close this episode here on that really uplifting note. And
Eric,
we're gonna.
It's always beautiful when you talk about that. That was it's every time you talk about it, it's beautiful.
Thank you. All right, well, look for more beautiful moments and some really good questions coming up here in episode 2. Catch you guys on the flip side. Here's what's happening on the next episode of Feeding Our Young.
I don't remember. I think I started out in college as an art major and then landed in nursing. And then there's something about that first semester in long-term care, that same moment of, if this is what nursing is, I can't do this. This is not for me. Had an instructor say, just like Jen did, someone told me to tough it out. Got to med-surg semester, I got a little bit better, and then got to labor and delivery, or the OB ped semester at WSU, and I was just the curtains opened, or the cervix dilated, and I was like, aha, this is what I want to do. Oh, and I'm like, it just made sense. And for the first time, I don't think I sat down all day at Sacred Heart's L&D unit. I was just up moving, what can I see? What can I absorb next? Whose cervix can I check? You want to check? You want to check? You want to check? But yeah,
I love
it it hit me. I loved it, and all of a sudden I was getting good grades in nursing school, and I was like, all right, I found my zone. I found the zone. So, anyways, yeah.
When the cervix opened, I can't. That's like, oh my gosh,
Okay,
gosh.
I
love
have to
Izzie.
share one funny, and
Okay.
please, no nursing student let this be docked, but like it's important to know the anatomy and the right terminology.
Yes.
There was a nursing student not too long ago who, how did they phrase it?
Did you like today's episode of Feeding Our Young? Let today's honored guest know by emailing us at thanks@feedingouryoung.org. Also, if you are a nursing student, nurse, or a nursing instructor and would like to be featured on a future episode, please email us a few details about yourself at the very special email address mystory@feedingouryoung.org. If you have a question you would like addressed in a future Q&A episode, please send it to q@feedingouryoung.org. For all other inquiries, please email us at info@feedingouryoung.org or text us at area code 509-ALL-THEM, 509-255-8436. We're so excited to have you return to hear our next honored guest. Be sure to follow us on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Feeding Our Young LLC. Again, that's username Feeding Our Young LLC. Until next time, be encouraged and go find someone to encourage today.